Hello, welcome back to my channel. So, you'll notice my room is a little bit of a mess. We're actually moving in a couple of weeks, which just adds to the chaos that we have going on. So I'm gonna be filming an update right now, telling you about what's going on because some stuff has been happening since my last video. So my last video was about my angiogram and about my experience with it and the complications and a little bit about the recovery. So since then, I am now about 3 weeks out since my angiogram. It's been about 3 weeks. So I'm fully recovered from that. The first week was pretty much the worst. I couldn't really walk. I did start leaking a little bit out of the incision site where they went in through the groin. Like that area started to leak a little bit, so I had to keep it clean, and I had to bandage it back up, and then it sealed back up on its own, thank heavens. So it took about a week and a half, 2 weeks to be recovered, and this last week I've been pretty normal. I do have some hip pain and some back pain, but I do have previous back injuries. And well, it's more like my hip lower back area on my right side. So I think the recovery on that side has just kind of, it's brought out the back pain again. So I've been trying to do stretches to help with it. I'm hoping that after my health kind of calms down, I might go back into physical therapy, which I did do last year, and that helped a lot. So I might do that after. But now it is again about 3 weeks, and in 2 days, I am getting my stent placed. And that's kind of crazy to say because the last time I came on here, I was like, yeah, we're just getting ahead of the game to see what happens and see where we go from here. Well, things change quickly with idiopathic intracranial hypertension. They really do. You can be fine 1 minute and very quickly things can change. So leading up to leading up to the angiogram, I did have pressure headaches happening. They weren't every single day. They were kind of inconsistent. So we were like, it could be hormonal because I am on birth control and I was on my cycle. So sometimes that can amplify those symptoms. We were even thinking the weather's been on, I live in California, so we've had on and off rain every so often. So they were thinking maybe like biometric pressure changes were causing these pressure headaches. But in the end, it got to a point where they weren't going away. I still pretty much every day have a pressure headache. Some days are way worse than others where I can't think, I can't see, I can't do anything. It's almost like a migraine, except I don't throw up, and it's more pressure pounding than like migraine where it's just pain. It's still painful, don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't classify the pressure headaches the same as the migraines. But in a way, pressure headaches are kind of worse because they can last months until they're treated. They'll keep going until they're treated, where migraines, it's usually like a couple of days at most, and then it gets better, at least in my experience. Some people I know have migraines for way longer, but for me, usually migraines are like a day or two, where the pressure headaches have been every day. So I talked to my neurologist basically I think it was like a week after my angiogram, and my pressure headaches had amplified. I don't know if the angiogram made the pressure headaches worse or if it was just timing. It could totally have been because we knew that I had high pressure. I mean, my pressure at the highest was at 40 in my head, which is really high pressure. So it could just be timing that everything happened, but they got worse and my vision was blacking out again. So I talked to my neurologist and he was like, I don't want to put you on more Diamox. I'm currently on 2,000 milligrams of Diamox a day. I know people have been on higher, but my doctors feel that 2,000 to them is a high dose. They wouldn't want me to go any higher, and my neurologist does not feel comfortable having me switch to Topamax or any other medications because he feels the root of the issue is that stenosis in the transverse sinus, and it's that no matter what medication he switches me on, it's not going to fix that issue, especially since we have such a high differential between before the stenosis and after the stenosis. If you want more details, I'll link below the video where I speak more in depth about the results about my angiogram. But he feels that switching me on medications would really just, switching medications in general is a hassle. There's side effects, and you're taking your body off of a medication that's kind of working, and you're putting yourself on a new medication that might work. You don't, like, there's so many what ifs. He feels like it's not worth it at this point. I'm also having, if you'll remember, I think it was like a month or two ago, I did a video about Diamox. Basically, I still stand by what I said in that video. I still love Diamox. It's helped me a lot in the last few months, regaining my vision, getting my pressure headaches down. When you have those pressure headaches for a long time and you either start Diamox or you up your Diamox, you can almost feel like less, you almost feel tight in your head, like less pressure is like, it's like releasing pressure. It's not really releasing pressure. I'm not wording it right, but you can kind of feel the difference taking place within a couple hours after you take that higher dose or you first start it. So, I just lost my train of thought with that. That's another thing. I feel like sometimes I can't get words out that I'm trying to get out, and I can't think fully. Like, I'll have a thought pop in and I just can't focus anymore. And I do think that is part of the Diamox, the side effects. Oh, that's what I was talking about, the side effects. I do think that's part of the Diamox, or it could be part of the high pressure. I feel like if you have pressure headaches for a long time, it's kind of like having a headache or being in pain for a long time. It does start to affect your cognitive abilities, at least temporarily. And I was also beginning to have extreme stomach pains. This is going to be TMI, every single time I go to the bathroom, I'd poop, and it was diarrhea, and it didn't matter what I ate, and it got to the point where I didn't want to eat, and even if I didn't eat, I was still having diarrhea. I knew I was getting dehydrated. I was trying to stay hydrated. It wasn't working, and I also wasn't eating, which I love food, but when you feel so sick and you can't eat, it's so hard to get food in. So every now and then I'd have to like force, it wouldn't even be a meal. I couldn't even eat a whole meal because my stomach couldn't handle the portion sizes that I used to. It was like borderline eating disorder. And I was getting to the point where I was like shaking. I'd get cold extremely easily. I'd be shivering, even though the house is set at like 70 degrees. I couldn't get warm, and it was getting unbearable. I tried Gatorades. I tried Pedialyte. I tried soups, anything that I could get in my body to help. It wasn't working. My most recent blood work did show that my kidneys they're not struggling, but they are borderline. My CO2 levels were low, and my chlorine, I think it was chlorine levels, were a little bit higher than what they should have been. So there's like an average range of what's normal, and mine were just out of that average range. So definitely not a sign of like kidney failure, but I definitely was dehydrated, and I definitely was still taking Diamox, and I wasn't getting enough water to like flush everything out. So I've been trying to do better about drinking water, although it's still really, really hard, if I'm being honest, and eating is still really, really hard, but I'm working on it. We're hopeful, because of all the issues that I'm now having and the pressure headaches that I'm now having, we're basically at a point where it's like, it's time to do the stent. And it just worked out that I did the angiogram when I did, because otherwise we would have been more into not emergency. It's definitely not an emergency yet, but we are leaning toward like we're running out of options and we're gonna run out of time, basically. For those of you who don't know, high pressure for a long time is dangerous. High risk of strokes and seizures. You can permanently lose your vision. Temporary vision loss is extremely common, but long term you can lose your vision. So it's dangerous long term to not have answers, and we're getting to a point where current medical treatment that I'm using is not working. So if there's no other option than getting a stent, we're kind of we had to get the stent. So that's why today is Sunday. On Tuesday, I'm getting the stent placed. So, ta-da-da! I am really nervous, but I'm excited. I've heard from so many people who have had stents in the same exact area that it's been a game changer. And even if it didn't cure, or not really cure, but even if it didn't put them into remission for IIH, it helped a lot. It got rid of tinnitus, which I do have pulsing tinnitus in both my ears, worse so on my left. They are going to be stenting just the left side this time. We are going to wait on the right side. We're hopeful that just the left will be good enough, but if in a few years it's not, we'll do it again. And yeah, that's where we're at with that. So Diamox is not working. I'm getting a stent, and we're going to try to taper me off of Diamox, and that's what's happening next, which is really, really nerve-wracking. I don't know. Sorry, my room is such a mess. We're literally moving in 3 weeks, guys. The timing. Why is life like that? Timing is always crazy. Yeah, I did have a couple questions. So I feel like I addressed the bulk of them there. But I am going to be doing a Q&A video in the future because I've been collecting all the questions that I've been getting. And while I do reply to comments, and I do, if you ever want to message me on Instagram, I always leave my Instagram in the description box. I reply to messages there as well. So you're welcome to ask me questions. I'm not a doctor, but I'm happy to tell you my experience and what's worked and what hasn't worked for me. And maybe you can see with your doctor what will work best for you. But yeah, so I will be making a Q&A video with all those questions, just so that way it's like easier to find. And personally, for me, when I was first getting diagnosed, first thing I did was go on YouTube and look at videos regarding this, and it was really hard to find. There was a few people that are amazing, and they still make videos, and I've even linked their videos in previous videos that I've done because I found them so helpful. So that's where we're at. If you guys have any more questions, let me know, and I will be sure to add it into the Q&A, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.